time. All right, the time it's actually 12:59 p.m. I'm calling the August 1st, 2022 meeting of the Albemarle County Architecture Review Board to order. This meeting is being held pursuant to and in compliance with Ordinance Number 20-A-16, an ordinance to ensure the continuity of government during the COVID-19 disaster. The opportunities for the public to access and participate in this electronic meeting are posted on the Albemarle County website at the Albemarle County calendar. The public has real-time audiovisual access to this meeting over Zoom and real-time audio access over telephone, both as provided in the lawfully posted meeting notice. This meeting is being recorded and will be made available on the county's website. This online meeting is a public record and subject to disclosure under the Freedom of Information Act. All speakers, when it is your turn to speak, please first state your name for the record. Everyone who is participating today, it is good practice to mute your microphone until it is your turn to speak. Applicants who are making presentations, note that your presentation is limited to a total of 15 minutes, which you can divide among your team members. Carolyn will let us know when the 15 minutes are up. A quorum is present. Architecture Review Board members present electronically are Frank Hancock, Frank Stoner, Tara Matsuno, and myself, Chris Henningsen. Do any ARB members have anything to disclose?
Yes, I do. I'm employed by the firm that's working on this project, so I will be the Premier Circle item on the agenda. So I'll be stepping back from this one, the first.
Okay. Thank you.
So Chris, I am not directly involved, but indirectly involved in the Premier Circle project, in that PHA is a partner in that project, and I serve on the board at PHA. But I don't think it's a direct conflict, but I wanted to disclose it.
All right, thank you.
I also need to disclose that I worked on both of the regular review items while I was employed at Timmons Group. I'm no longer employed at Timmons Group and feel that I can provide a fair review of both of these items.
All right, sounds good. Thank you. Carolyn, are there any members of the public that want to make a comment about a project that is not on the agenda for review?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, thanks a lot. There are no consent agenda items today, but there are two regular review items. They will be presented by Chris Taggart and Margaret Malashevsky of the Planning Division of Community Development. The first item is ARB 2022-61, TJACH Premier Circle. Chris, are you ready with your presentation?
Yes, I am. One second. Is everybody viewing the slideshow screen? Okay. The application I'm presenting on today is the final review of architecture and site plan for the first phase of a three-phase development. This phase includes a 4-story 80-unit building with associated site improvements. The site is located at 405 Premier Circle and contains a motel that predates the entrance quarter. The ARB recommended approval of the initial site plan and provided preliminary comments on the architecture on May 1st. Few changes have made since the previous review. Those changes include minor revisions to the building design and site plans. Regarding the building design, the brick sample matches the appearance described by the manufacturer of weathered painted brick, and the windows added to the southern portion of the east elevation help to reduce brightness and establish continuity. Details have been provided for the elevator tower. The drawings note that the roof of the tower will be just a foot over the parapet, which would make it not visible from the entrance quarter. However, the location of what looks like the elevator appears to be oriented differently than in the roof plan and much taller than 1 foot above the parapet. Staff recommends revising the drawings to coordinate the height and orientation of the elevator and adding materials and colors to the drawings if this element will be visible from the street. Regarding the landscaping for the site, the plan has been revised to show only the plantings provided in phase 1 of this development. However, no landscaping is shown in the limits of work along Premier Circle. Staff recommends revising the landscape plan to include the interior road trees from the overall plan that are within the phase 1 limits of work. Staff recommends approval of the final site plan with the revisions listed in the staff report. I'd be happy to try to answer any questions.
All right, thanks a lot for your presentation. Frank Hancock, do you have any questions?
I don't. Thanks, Chris.
Frank Stoner?
I don't have any questions, Chris. Thanks.
All right. I don't have any questions either. Does the applicant have a presentation ready?
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Hi, yes, I'm Whitney McDermott at BRW Architects. I have a presentation. I'll go ahead and share my screen. Hopefully you all can see the Premier Circle presentation.
Yep.
Great. Thanks again for reviewing this application. Again, I'm Whitney McDermott at BRW Architects. I just wanted to take a small amount of time to remind you all, I presented this last time we reviewed the initial site plan of the kind of the future vision for this project. It's at ultimate build out. It's going to be, or the vision is that it would be a combination of a way to address homelessness and affordable housing in our community. The TJAC Premier Circle initial plan before you today is just a component of the larger vision that is a partnership between Thomas Jefferson Area Coalition for the Homeless, which is TJAC, Virginia Supportive Housing, which is the component of the project that this building represents, and Piedmont Housing Alliance, all of whom are working together over the next few years to provide a multi-phase approach to homelessness and affordable housing on this site along Route 29. Each entity is contributing to one component of the affordable housing on site. Currently, TJAC is there, and they work to reduce homelessness by initiating creative solutions and coordinating regional resources and services. They have partnered with Pacham, and they are currently operating on site, providing temporary emergency housing for the homeless in the existing hotel or motel. And they hope to provide as many rooms as possible throughout the project until the ultimate phase, all the parcels of construction is underway. Then this project represents Virginia Supportive Housing, and they have a mission to end homelessness by providing permanent housing and supportive services. With the building in this site plan and ARB application, it's VSH that is initiating the next phase of the overall master plan for the site by bringing in the 80 single residency occupant units in this building to provide homes for formerly homeless and on-site support services to those residents. The next partner and phase of the project is not before you today. However, I mention it to help shape the ultimate vision. After VSH is kind of complete, the building is complete, Piedmont Housing Alliance, another local nonprofit providing innovative solutions to affordable housing, plans to build up to 60 affordable multifamily units on this site as well, maybe somewhere in the back of the project parcel. And then the current master plan will be complete with the development of the front parcel down here, Route 29, the entrance corridors, Plant South here. This parcel would be developed, and the ultimate plan is that would be intended to be a mixed-use building directly adjacent to the entrance corridor. So I just also wanted to address some of the primary points of discussion. The first being the idea about the blankness and adding some relief to blankness of wall. And I might have misunderstood which wall the staff report was talking about. We had added some windows. I'm sorry, this plan is a little out of context. Route 29 is Plan South here. We have added some windows along this wall to relieve blankness. And I was thinking the staff report was also noting this wall over here. And I just wanted to mention that we're not able necessarily to provide the same way of addressing blankness on this wall, if that is a wall in question, just due to the stair landing. I'm sure there are other creative solutions, but as a first pass, as thinking it through, we have not added windows there for that reason, and thought that the length of wall was small enough that it actually provides an architectural element to actually provide a blank wall in that location. Here's the perspective of that. So that's the wall I was just talking about. And these are the windows we did add in response to comments after the initial site plan review. The next point I wanted to address has to do with the visibility of a guardrail along a site retaining wall. So again, Plan South is Route 29 in this site plan. Currently, the site plan proposes a retaining wall along the property line, which allows for the building to be placed and have universal design, accessible access all around the building and to all amenities around the building. Currently, the site has this berm along this property line, and it requires a retaining wall in order to allow for kind of that access I was just talking about around the building. And so the staff report discussed the potential visibility of any guardrail that would be on top of that retaining wall. The retaining wall would have to be around 5 feet, 5.5 feet in some places, and so a guardrail would be required. If the retaining wall were to stay, and so I did a quick study this morning of how high up from our rendering program you would have to be to see that guardrail, and this is about 15 feet, 14 feet off the ground. And you just kind of start to see it. So I don't know if that's telling of anything yet. We can do some further studies if needed, but that's a first look at addressing that comment in the staff report. Something I will mention is that the retaining wall is the berm, because the berm kind of just slopes up to the property line and then back down again. It is possible that the applicant can go and discuss with the adjacent property owner to get a grading easement to relieve the need for the retaining wall. That is something that is being considered currently. It's still under consideration with the adjacent property owner. And the third point I just wanted to address has to do with the visibility of the elevator tower. And I wanted to clarify, and I'm sorry if it wasn't clear in the drawings, the elevator tower is kind of located in the middle of the roof, and it is only about 1.5 feet above the top of the roof. This, on the other hand, is another piece of equipment, a DOAS. It's part of the mechanical system, and that is what you see in this front elevation. And that is what you're actually seeing in this render here when we were trying to study how high off the ground you had to be to start to see any of the mechanical or elevator projections on the roof. And again, that was estimated to be about 21 feet above Route 29 is when we started to see that piece of equipment pop over the parapet. So that is a quick overview of our response. Here's an elevator section just to kind of show you that the elevator tower itself isn't isn't hugely massive above the roof line. So that's all I have. Thank you. Any questions?
All right, thanks a lot for your presentation. Frank Stoner, do you have any questions for the applicant?
Yeah, Whitney, just one question regarding the retaining wall. I think I understand it, but the elevation on the building side is lower than the elevation on the other side. Is that
That's
you are
correct.
excavating down? Okay. That's what I thought. Just wanted to confirm. That's all I have.
Frank Hancock?
Thank you for your presentation. Great to see kind of the overall vision for the project. And I appreciate how you framed kind of the staff questions and comments. That's very helpful to see. Just further expanding on Frank Stoner's question, I guess guardrail, there's two terms, guardrail or chain link fence. If you're required to have a guardrail, does it have to be a chain link fence, or would it just be like a picketed guardrail?
From my understanding, we wouldn't want a chain link fence. I think it could be a guardrail as long as it met the requirements for the load that it was containing back, 200 pounds or something, I think, and then 3'6", I think, above the ground.
Okay, thank you.
All right, thanks. I actually had the same question as Frank, but you answered it satisfactorily. So, Carolyn, are there any members of the public who want to comment or have questions?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, great. Thank you. ARB will now go into discussion. Frank Stoner, do you have any comments?
I don't, Chris. I mean, I think the improvements address all our earlier concerns about the structure. Hopefully, they can negotiate a deal with the adjoining neighbor and not have to build that retaining wall, which seems like an artificial sort of construct since the ground goes down anyway. But yeah, otherwise, I think it's a nice looking project.
All right, thanks a lot, Frank. Frank Hancock.
I agree. I think it'll be a nice addition to this corridor. I think the way it's kind of set back, in the phase one is just a piece of that frontage. I don't think it's going to overwhelm the corridor because it is kind of perched up on that hill. And then there's the variation in the building, just the relief with the architectural elements, but also kind of that crook that, creates the garden space, I think is really nice. And yeah, thank you for the application. I think it's good to get this density up here.
Thanks a lot, Frank. I am in agreement with my colleagues. I thought the moves that you made in response to the comments from the last meeting were all great, and I'm supportive of the project in general and of the building in particular. So guess we want to review the recommended motion.
Yeah, I did have one other question that came to mind. Did we get color samples for the materials? And if so, I'm just looking through the staff report and I didn't see them.
We did receive a sample brick and then the two colors and samples noted for the two metals that are being proposed for the elevations. The only item that kind of staff pointed out was the element of the brick sample, but we confirmed that it kind of has that painted brick appearance. So we felt like it would be appropriate for the building design in the entrance corridor.
Okay, thanks.
All right, so do any board members have any modifications they would like to make to the motion? All right, in that case, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'll move to approve the application with the recommendations outlined in the staff report. No amendments.
All right, I'll second that. So if we could go to a vote.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Henningsen.
Aye.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot.
Thank you all.
Thanks. All right, so our second regular review item is ARB 2022-63, Town Place Suites. Margaret, do you have your presentation ready?
Are you able to see that PowerPoint slide?
Yes, thank you.
Great. Okay. This is a proposal to construct a hotel with associated site improvements at the corner of Olympia Drive and Town and Country Lane, and that's just a short distance north of Route 250 East at Pantops. This is a final site development plan and a second review of the architectural design. This is the current design for the building. And in this slide, the south elevation, which is the lower one, is the elevation that faces the entrance corridor. And these are the other elevations. Again, the north elevation, which is at the bottom of the image, is not visible from the 250 entrance corridor. The ARB last reviewed this proposal in February of this year. This slide shows a comparison of the current south elevation at the top with the one that was reviewed in February at the bottom. You can see that there have been some adjustments to the composition of the pieces at the roof and in the location of the mechanical equipment screens on top of the building. In the February review, it was unclear whether the angled roofs were limited to just the top of the building. The current proposal shows that they are limited to the central elements at the center of the building. In February, there was also a request for confirmation that the wall area under the angled roofs would not be illuminated, and that has been confirmed. This is a comparison of the side elevations of the building with the current design at the top and the previous design reviewed in February at the bottom of the slide. One of the comments from the February review was to reconsider the color scheme of the building for greater compatibility with the existing character of the corridor. The staff report from February noted that red brick and neutral tones of stucco were prevalent in the area. And this particular image is from the previous submittal. The colors have been shifted somewhat in the current proposal, but the palette is still very close to the original proposal. There were some minor landscape comments made in the February review, and they have all been resolved with the current landscape plan. Lighting issues are really the primary items that remain. 2 lighting plans have been submitted for review. One was included in the site plan and the other was created as a separate submittal. The 2 plans are not completely consistent in terms of the maximum level of illumination at the ground. And the plan that's not part of the site plan set includes ground mounted uplights to illuminate the building. That's information we need to know, but it needs to be in the site plan set. The uplights are LED fixtures, but the total lumens hasn't been included in the schedule, and that information is also needed. Photometrics have been provided showing the level of illumination from the fixtures on the walls of the building. The maximum shown is 16.2 foot candles on the east elevation. That's actually more than the maximum at ground level. And this type of illumination is typically not approved in the entrance corridors. The ARB has typically limited illumination of the building to that which is needed for safety and security. These are photometrics for the building illumination on the south and west walls. Now, the black and gray diagrams represent the distribution of light on the walls. One other lighting issue to be resolved is the color temperature. The color temperature specified for the site lights corresponds to 4000 K. We've been working toward a consistent 3000 K color temperature, which is a warm white light. So those are the highlights of our review and staff report. Our recommendation is for approval with the conditions listed in the report, and I'd be happy to try to answer any questions that you have.
All right, Margaret, thanks a lot for the presentation. Tara, do you have any questions?
No, at this time, but thank you for your presentation. It's very thorough. Appreciate it.
Frank Hancock,
I don't have any questions. Thanks, Margaret.
Frank Stoner,
Yeah, thanks, Chris. Margaret, do we have a roof plan that shows exactly where those slope roofs extend to as toward the rear? Do they go all the way to the rear of the building or just a small section in the front?
Let me pull that up for you just a second.
Okay.
Let me share again. Are you able to see that plan?
yes.
Yes.
So as I understand it, that element and that element represents the angled roofs.
And are they just a parapet effectively? Like, or do they?
You know, I'm afraid I'm not going to be able to speak intelligently enough to describe that, and I think maybe that's a good question for the applicant.
Okay,
Would you like me to leave this image up?
sure, that'd be great.
Okay.
All right, thanks a lot. I don't have any questions either, so if the applicant has a presentation and they're ready to go, we could do that.
Who's the applicant for this one, Margaret?
We have Neil Bott, but I believe there are several people from the applicant side in the meeting.
I am promoting them now. Okay, Neil, if you're ready to start your presentation, you can.
Okay, I hope you can hear me. And my video is not on and I don't know how to turn it on. So start video, okay. Got it, okay, finally. We don't really have a presentation because we basically have responded to the comments, and Margaret has the presentation which basically reflected what we responded to the comment. So I can answer any questions. I also have the clients on the line, which is Sahil Patel and Hitesh Patel, and my project manager, Asim Kumar, is on the line too. But I can respond to the one question I heard, that is the roof. It literally is just a decorative parapet roof. It's not a occupiable space or anything like that. It's just a architecture embellishment feature. And you were, Margaret, you were correct. The roof plan which you shown is the extent of that butterfly roof.
That's great. Thank you.
All right. Thank you. So Frank, do you have any additional questions for the applicant?
I didn't get a chance to see what the elevation difference is between 250 and the I guess ground level of this building. Does anybody, Margaret or Mr. Bott, do you happen to know what the elevation difference is?
I don't know exactly, but Kim Rosser from Timmons and Lines, he may be more qualified to answer that. it almost looks like the only thing you see from 250 is what was like the top of the building. It almost seems to me, just my guesstimate, maybe about 20 feet below the 250 to the site elevation.
So I don't have the exact difference in elevation. I don't think the site plan goes all the way out to 250, but this image does show that the hotel sits lower. It's really 250 out in this corner of the image.
It is the slope roof detail as shown in this rendering accurate? The
No,
portion of the
I
building.
won't rely on this rendering. If you can go back to the elevations.
Yeah, this particular image is from the last review. We didn't have new perspective. Let me pull up the. That's the current elevation.
Yeah.
All right, was that, does that answer your question, Frank, or,
Yes, yeah, I think it does.
great. Frank Hancock, do you have any questions for the applicant?
I don't. Thank you.
Tara, do you have any questions?
Thank you.
Thanks. I don't have any questions either. So Carolyn, are there any members of the public with questions or comments?
No, sir, not at this time.
All right, thank you. The ARB will now go into discussion. Frank Hancock, do you have any comments?
Sure. When I was looking at this, I really was thinking about it, contextually. I think in the staff report, it noted the two buildings that are in between this building and the corridor. But when I was thinking about it, I kind of spread that view a little bit wider and thought about the recent application that's actually just recently completed, the Porsche building, that is fairly close to this. And then some of the other auto dealerships on the other side of the road. And I think, to me, that kind of made me feel better about this color palette. When you look at it just in terms of the two red brick and kind of warm tone colors of the buildings that are right in front of it, I think it's a stark contrast. But when you think globally or zoom out a little bit more, I think it's appropriate. And I think, given too that this building is not directly fronting the corridor, I'm okay with that color palette. I do agree with staff, however, that the uplighting is something that we do not want on the corridor. I think that would actually have more of a negative impact in my eyes than this kind of cooler color palette. So those are my initial thoughts.
All right, thanks, Frank. Tara, do you have any comments?
I just wanted to note that I think that's a good observation, Frank. I don't have, I would second the issue of lighting, but I didn't have any further issues. I appreciate the applicant revisions since the last time this was reviewed.
Thank you. Frank Steiner, do you have any comments?
I don't. I would agree with pretty much everything Frank Hancock said. I think staff's recommendation that the color and the extent of uplighting be reduced or eliminated is appropriate given the location. Obviously understand the desire to make sure people can see the building, and I don't know what the signage plan looks like kind of soon. That will come back at a later date. Otherwise, I'm generally comfortable with the architecture, given the location. I don't think it's going to be all that visible from the corridor, and I think it's a. If I'm reading the plans right, I think it'll be a nice addition, actually, especially with the other sort of modern structures that are on that side of the street.
All right.
Thanks, Chris.
Thanks a lot. I am in agreement with my colleagues. I thought the applicant did a good job addressing the concerns from last time, and I don't really have any major concerns about where it's ended up. So we could review the recommended motion. All right, do any board members have any modifications that they'd like to make? All right, in that case, would anyone like to make a motion?
I'd like to make the motion to approve the application with the recommendations outlined in the staff report.
Thanks. Would anybody like to second that?
I'll second it.
All right, if we could go to a vote.
Mr. Stoner,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
Mr. Henningsen.
Aye,
Thank you.
thanks. Okay, so there is one work session item today. It's on the entrance corridor design guidelines addendum. Margaret and Mariah, do you have the presentation ready?
Well, thank you all. We appreciate it.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, everybody.
Are you all able to see the PowerPoint slide?
Yes, thank you.
Great.
Yeah.
Okay. So we provided you with a document that includes some of the segments that you've already seen. We want to just give you an idea of put everything together and see so you can see how things are coming along, how it's progressing. There is new information in this document, and it includes the sheets for Route 151 and for the Ivy and Northridge segments of 250 West. Also, there were some updated photos for the university segment on 250 West. And this is the sort of the intro sheet and the Afton segment that you've already that you saw earlier previously. Two sheets for the Greenwood segment. Two sheets for the Crozet segment. Again, we've already seen this one previously. The Ivy Depot and the Northridge segments are the new ones. We realize that there are a few photos in the new information that don't have captions. We'll get those filled in for you for next time. And new photos in the university section. Again, we realize we've got captions to add. The Route 151 segment, which is new today. We do have two options for the photo layout that we'd like to get your input on. There they are side by side. And I have each sheet individually that I can pull up as you'd like to, whatever you prefer to do, however you'd like to look at it. Love to get your feedback on the new sheets, or if you've got new comments on the old ones, that's good too. So just sort of open it up for comments and let me know what sheet you'd like me to jump to.
All right, thanks a lot, Margaret. Frank Stoner, do you have any comments?
I don't initially. I guess I need to study the 2 corridor photo arrays in a little bit more detail. The photos appear to be different, and I don't know whether that's I don't know whether the photos are intended to be final or if it's just the layout that we're studying today. Is that?
Oh, I'll ask Mariah if she can maybe summarize quickly what the differences between the 2 layouts are.
Yeah.
Sure. So the first segment, the image on the left, the images are the same for both with the exception of one image, which is the church image that's at the top right. That is deleted from the second layout. What I tried to do with the 2 layouts was 9 fits the grid layout that we have, especially in a landscape, kind of a landscape extent. I thought what the second one to the right offered was that the point of this corridor was really those majestic rolling hills in the distance and the views to them. So this shows a view to the west as well as a view to the east, and kind of shows a little more priority and precedent towards what is the view from a distance, versus the layout on the left is you can kind of see it in the photos, the distant views of the mountains, but I think the right hand side does a better job of really putting a focus on that point. Both work fine. It's just a matter of aesthetic and direction.
Thanks. Now that you explained it like that makes a lot of sense, because the structures on this segment are almost like incidental to the overall experience when you're on that road. I kind of favor the right now that it's been explained. Frank Hancock, do you have any comments?
Yes, it's great to see kind of this whole segment and see how it'll all work together. For this specific question, my thought is, can we have the flexibility of using either option or dividing that grid in different ways along different corridors? I think works really well with the landscape character of this corridor, but it could also work really well with like a collection of buildings that we think is important or notable. So showing kind of that more landscape view would help illustrate that. So I don't know that we have to be rigid and every page has, the same 9 picture grid and they're all the same size. I think it could change, especially some smaller segments, or like we've talked about, some segments don't have the architectural resources that others have, and we're highlighting different things. So
yeah, I think we want to maintain flexibility. I think it's a question to ask whether like when to break the grid, essentially. So it's helpful points on that.
And then I had one specific comment on the Crozet corridor. I refer or talk about the FNR building a fair amount. I think it's a really successful example of a contemporary building on the corridor in a rural setting. So I don't know if that could get maybe more featured billing as like a standalone, because that's somewhat recent. I always notice it when I drive by and appreciate it, so.
I guess if we're pulling up projects we like, I like the in the Ridge segment. I think that the 2871 Ivy Road. I'm not sure of the name of that building, but that's yeah, in the bottom left of the right hand spread on the previous page. Oh, previous page or previous slide. Sorry. Yeah, 287 on the right hand spread on the bottom left. I've always kind of liked that one as a personal, from a personal perspective of a sort of medical building that contains a modern style that refers to traditional elements, technical elements is pretty successful. I guess the one thing is that it's difficult to photograph from certain parts of the border itself. I wonder if you can get a different view of it, or otherwise feature the architecture slightly more prominently, because I think it's a well done element of that corridor.
Sure. I think we can do that.
I second that. I think that's a great example to highlight.
Okay.
I guess that brings up a question too, like if a building can be better described generally from a view that's not necessarily the view you would get from the corridor itself, is that a valid is that a valid way to do it? Because I think, you know, I don't know that it sometimes the best shot of a building that really gives you a good understanding of the building is not necessarily like maybe the exact facade that you see as you're driving by, or it might have screening or foliage. So I don't know, I'm just putting that out there, and that's anybody's feeling feels otherwise. It'd be good to get a different view if you can't see the building that well from the
I think that's one of the things that Margaret and I talked about as we were laying this out, is that so much of the continuity in this corridor is the buffers provided by the landscape and the landscape plantings themselves. So what we tried to capture in that image was the deep setback that provided that landscape buffer that's continuous throughout the corridor, and as well as that it's planted at various with various types of plant species at various heights, depths, and spacings. And I think you brought up the point of, you know, what is the view from the corridor, and sometimes what establishes these as very, I wonder if what establishes some of these buildings as very successful buildings is their ability to blend into the landscape, the landscaping being part of that, but maybe there is a better image to kind of showcase all of that. Those are the things that we were trying to think of when finding the image.
Well, and that's a good point. I guess thinking as an architect who does not draw trees in front of the building and in my elevations, I want to see the building, maybe cut down some trees and stuff in front of it. But that's a good point. I mean, you can't remove it from its context. So I guess, it's important to show that.
Yeah, I guess that was my own also professional bias of just as a user of this, it would be from an architectural perspective, it would be helpful to have a better view of the building that is. But I can take the point that from a perspective of describing the corridor and its typical character, the desired character, putting it in the context makes a lot more sense.
It can, I think you could make a case for highlighting a building or the way the building looks, even if it's slightly different than how you might typically see it from the street, particularly when you're driving by. And the guidelines do say that, the landscaping or the landscaping along the street, getting consistency there allows for more variety in the architecture. So it could make sense to highlight some of the architecture that's there and you know, to show what's possible and what is appropriate. And even though, particularly after the landscaping has matured, even though some, you know, some of those buildings aren't all that visible. So I think it does. I think you can easily make a case to highlight some of those buildings.
I guess they show different things, right? Like all the images can, some of them speak to screening, some of them speak to scale and massing or color. So yeah.
Mhm.
All right. Any other questions or comments?
Well, you could talk about the university segment. Just because we do have these, I think the ones without captions on the left, and just that we're going to talk a little bit here about the complementary scale and the different setbacks between the older and newer developments. I guess it's great to call out some of the more recent additions to the corridor, but not having been present when these were being discussed. I'm just kind of wondering, like, yeah, what does go in those spaces? And what kind of things do we want to highlight about these structures? If there are any initial thoughts of what would go in them in the future, if there are things, I thought a discussion of that would be kind of helpful.
Yeah, and I'm glad they were included because they're some, you know, very prominent brand new buildings. And I'm wondering, I guess for other corridors, like, and maybe that gets to just a general comment about as new buildings are developed on each of these corridors, is there any thought towards a mechanism for keeping the one-pagers updated? Like, would a new project bump a project that's featured on the one-pager? And if so, how would that happen? How often do we think these would be updated moving forward?
It's a good question, and it isn't one that we've talked about a lot, but I think it definitely makes sense to update as we go. Definitely.
Not to pile on more stuff before we're even done like the first go on, but just something to think about.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, does anyone else have any other questions or comments, or Margaret or Mariah, do you have anything you'd want more feedback on?
I'd just like to make one additional comment, and just to encourage everyone, but in particular the board member who did the initial survey work on the corridors to look carefully at the text and to make sure that what we've put in there as the general characteristics and all the bulleted items really captures what you found in your survey work. So for example, so Frank Stoner for Route 151, I think that was your one of your corridors. So
Yes.
hopefully you'll take a look at that and just make sure that we've captured what you found in your work.
I will indeed.
Great. And we will keep trying to bring you new segments at each meeting.
All right, thanks. Well, we appreciate it. And they're still looking great. So I guess on to other business. Would anyone like to make a motion to approve the July 18th minutes?
I wasn't here.
So moved.
Okay, I'll second that. So if we could ask for a vote.
Mr. Henningsen,
Aye.
Mr. Mitsuno,
Aye.
Mr. Hancock,
Aye.
Mr. Stoning.
Abstain.
Thank you.
All right, thanks a lot. The next ARB meeting is scheduled for August 15th, 2022. This will be a virtual meeting. Are there any members who do not think they will be present for that?
I'm planning to attend.
Same here.
Great. So sounds like we will have a quorum. Do any board members or staff have any other items or questions? Comments?
Question for Frank. Frank, where are you?
I've moved out of the basement and into my new role at UVA Foundation.
Oh, that's exciting.
Yeah, congratulations. That's great.
Thank you. I've been here about a month. So it's
Tell
been
Fred we
good.
said hi.
Yes, I will. I did have a question. Margaret, can you remind us of our due date for corridor studies?
How about if I send an email?
Yes, thank you.
Sure.
All right, thanks a lot. This meeting is adjourned until our next meeting on August 15th. It is 1:56 p.m. by my clock. So hope everyone has a enjoyable 2 weeks. So we
Thanks, Chris.
see each other again.
Thanks, everyone.
Thanks a lot.
Take care, everyone.
Thank you.
Yeah.